Hello, I'm Cietta, and I have the privilege of sharing information on everyone's favorite part of the project, the reports. In 2013, the Office of Management and Budget issued revised guidance under 2 CFR Part 200. This created government-wide uniform administrative requirements such as cost principles and audit requirements for federal awards. These changes emphasize the responsibility to manage and monitor the performance and regulation compliance of the CDBG grantees. State CDBG programs are required to establish record-keeping requirements that are sufficient to facilitate reviews and monitoring of federal funds to determine that grantees are carrying out its community development program and activities as described in the application and the grant agreement, that grantees are carrying out the activities in a timely manner, that grantees are charging costs to the project that are eligible under applicable laws and regulations, that grantees are conducting activities with adequate control over program and financial performance to minimize opportunities for waste, mismanagement, fraud, and abuse. Grantees play a significant role in the effective implementation of the CDBG program. Both the grantee, you, and OCD, us, share joint responsibility for complying with all federal requirements. To ensure that federal funds awarded achieve their intended purposes, it is important for OCD to oversee the process from the application through closeout, establishing comprehensive policies and procedures that incorporate the provisions of 2 CFR 200, as well as program-specific requirements, is one of the keys to that oversight. To achieve the shared performance objectives and compliance with CDBG regulations, grantees will periodically submit reports and/or documents to confirm that they are complying with program regulations and meeting performance goals. This is accomplished through reports that address other federal requirements, financial management, project performance, and activities prompted by project progress. First, let's go over a few general requirements that will help with your reporting. The grant project file should include supporting financial documents with the names and titles of the grantee's representatives that have fiscal responsibility for CDBG funds. Those with signature authority, those that handle book entries, check preparation, and bank reconciliations. These representatives should be covered by a grantee fidelity bond that is for an amount at least equal to any CDBG fund amount that would be in the grantee's CDBG bank account at one time. For example, if the grantee has $100,000 of CDBG grant funds in the bank account because the contractor has not cashed a check, and the grantee draws an additional $100,000, which is also in the grantee CDBG account, then the representatives with any access to CDBG funds must have a fidelity bond that is at least $200,000. Listed here are a few more requirements that will help with your reporting. CDBG grant funds must be expended on allowable items and approved by the responsible grantee official. CDBG grant funds are for eligible expenses actually incurred and are not to exceed actual cash requirements. CDBG funds and any other funds to accomplish the project should be deposited in separate accounts. CDBG funds must be placed in non-interest-bearing accounts. 2 signatures are required on every check authorizing CDBG funds. CDBG grant funds must be dispersed within 20 days of their receipt by the grantee. CDBG grant funds should not be drawn until costs have been incurred or invoiced. Based on 2 CFR 302, the commingling of CDBG funds with other sources is discouraged. CDBG grant funds should be deposited into their own non-interest-bearing checking account, and any other funds necessary to accomplish the project should be deposited or held in a separate account. HUD does allow for CDBG funds to be deposited in an interest-bearing account. However, It is the policy of the Office of Community Development that CDBG funds be held in a non-interest-bearing account. The information you provide on the financial report must be accurate and include the expenses for which you have a complete payment transaction. Both CDBG and other funds being reported must be supported by source documentation. Source documentation must demonstrate both verification of the expense and verification of the payment of the expense. Examples of source documentation are copies of invoices, pay estimates, canceled checks, and bank statements. A project financial ledger must be kept for CDBG grant expenditures and for any other fund expenditures. To monitor the progress of the project, there are two required quarterly reports, the periodic financial and the periodic performance report. These are available on our website listed on this slide. The department views these two forms with their supporting documentation as one quarterly report document. Project financial expenditures are reported on a uniform GATA form, the Periodic Financial Report, or PFR. Project performance updates are reported on a uniform GATA form, the Periodic Performance Report, or PPR. This periodic report is due quarterly and at closeout. The report schedule is in your grant agreement. The PFR, any supporting documents, and PPR should be scanned as one document and sent to the grant manager. The report should be labeled with the grant number, the community's name, QPFPR, and the report due date. For example, 21-242999, your town, QPFPR 3-31-23. This is an example of the periodic financial report for the CDBG program. Accurate data is essential to measure the grantee's progress toward achieving the project description and milestones found in the grant agreement. To fill in the top portion of this form, please use the information from pages 1 and 2 of the grant agreement. You will need the grantee name, the grant number, the CSFA, or Catalog of State Financial Assistance, the CFDA, the Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance, the FEIN, the DUNS, or now the UEI, Unique Entity ID, and the grant agreement period. Please use the correct program name, for example, CDBG Public Infrastructure. The report period is the quarterly time frame you are reporting information. Let's take a look at the other cells on the periodic financial report. For the CDBG program, there is no indirect cost rate. Select no program restrictions. There should be no mandatory match. However, if Exhibit B of your grant agreement has other funds listed to complete the project, please list the other funds source in cell S, specify match. For example, IEPA funds. Use cell Y, current approved budget, and list the amounts from the grant agreement Exhibit B. For example, line 8 construction is for the 03JW or S construction expenses, and line 6 contractual services is for 03JD activity delivery expenses. If you are reporting current expenses, list those under cell Z, grant expenditures, current period grant expense. Use the prior approved grant expenses column for expenses already reported in previous quarters. If you have other funds listed in the grant agreement Exhibit B, fill in cell AA match expenditures. For example, the 03JW Water Other amount of IEPA funds to complete the project should be listed on line 8 of cell AA match expenditures, matching funds required. If you are reporting other fund amounts expended for the reporting quarter, you will have to add it to any previously reported other funds and list it as either total cash or total in kind. The PFR needs to be signed by the authorized official, the mayor, village president, county board chair, or the designee who is indicated in the grant agreement. Expenses, grant funds or other funds, being reported on the PFR must include the submission of supporting documentation that matches the amount you are reporting. Report the expenses in the quarter in which you have a complete transaction. A complete transaction includes the pay estimate or invoice, the payment verification, either a canceled check or bank statement, the cash request, and the deposit of grant funds. Do not report expenses until you have all supporting documentation. You must submit a quarterly report even if you have no expenses to document. This is an example of the periodic performance report for the CDBG program. Information provided in this form gauges the progress of the project. Through reported activity achievements, the grant manager can estimate if the project will meet a timely completion of the project description listed in Exhibit A of the grant agreement. To fill in the top portion of this form, please use the information found between pages 1 and 2 of your grant agreement. You will need the grantee name, grant number, CSFA, Catalog of State Financial Assistance, CFDA, Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance, the FEIN, the DUNS, which is now the UEI or Unique Entity ID, and the agreement period. Please use the correct program name, for example, CDBG Public Infrastructure. The report period end date is the last date of the quarter for which you are reporting information. This is an example of page 2 of the PPR. On page 1 of the PPR, cell 14, Deliverable, gets its information from Grant Agreement Exhibit B. Include one line for each activity. For example, 03 JW Water Construction, 03 JD Activity Delivery. If other funds are listed in Exhibit B, include a line and say, grantee commits X number of dollars to complete the project. Cell 15 due date is the end date of the grant agreement. Cell 16, date completed, will be the date the project is complete. Cell 17, deliverable explanation, will be filled in or answered in the final report. On page 1 of the PPR, cell 18, performance measures, is from the grant agreement Exhibit E. For CDBG PI projects, list 2 lines, one for the total number of persons served, for example, community-wide or service area, 500 total persons served, and one line for the LMI persons served, for example, community-wide or service area, 300 LMI persons served, 60% LMI. Cell 19, performance standard frequency, should say end of the grant. Cell 20, results accomplishments in reporting period. Provide a dialogue or explanation on project activities accomplished during the reporting quarter. For example, project bid or contract awarded. Each quarter, the grantee must provide an update on the progress of the project. Select an answer for cell 22, performance explanation award to date, and cell 23, performance accomplishments correlated to reported expenses. Your answer should be based on the project's timely performance accomplishments and incurred expenditures. The PPR needs to be signed by the authorized official, the mayor, village president, county board chair, or the designated person indicated in the grant agreement. Review the exhibits in your grant agreement to accurately report on the performance of your project.
Housing-specific reporting. As for quarterly reporting, all payments are based on invoices from the contractors and administrators. You must document line item payouts to physical inspections of the completed work. These items are rehab, admin inspection contracts, change orders, invoices, canceled checks, certificates of completion per home, and you must document the number of homes completed on the PPR. You will also need a HUD annual performance report due annually.
Please reach out to your assigned grant manager if you have any questions. Thank you.